18 years of waiting culminated in a dream come true in 2025, and 12 months later, Royal Challengers Bengaluru have shown that their triumph was not a one-off fairy tale or a fluke, but the beginning of a new chapter in the franchisee's history. RCB are now back-to-back IPL champions, joining an exclusive group of teams that have successfully defended the coveted title. And on the grandest stage, it was King Kohli once again who rose to the occasion. Chasing a target of 156 in Ahmedabad, Bengaluru displayed the composure, confidence and clarity that define champion teams. Kohli's unbeaten 75 anchored the pursuit as RCB overcame Gujarat Titans by 5 wickets to secure their second consecutive IPL crown. Under the leadership of Rajat Patidar, a franchisee that spent years searching for its defining moment, has now established itself as one of the competition's benchmark teams. And yet, this victory carries significance that extends far beyond the boundaries of the cricket field. It arrives a year after the tragic stampede during RCB's title celebrations that claimed 11 lives and left the cricketing community in mourning. And throughout this campaign, the memory of those supporters remained close to the team's heart, and this championship has been dedicated to them. This is a triumph that will be remembered not just for the records it created, but for the resilience, unity and emotion behind it. For years, Bengaluru chased greatness, and today it stands as one of the defining forces of the IPL era. For years, the joke was always the same, Ee Sala Cup Namde, but now that joke is gone and the trophies are real. RCB have become only the third franchise in IPL history to successfully defend their crown after Chennai Super Kings and Mumbai Indians. What was once the league's most emotionally invested fan base is now supporting one of its most successful teams. And when the pressure is the highest, Virat Kohli delivers an unbeaten 75 and finishing the match with a towering 6 over long on earned him the Player of the Match award and placed him among the oldest players ever to win the honour in an IPL final. And more importantly, delivered another championship to the franchise he has carried for nearly 2 decades. There was another story unfolding beyond the boundary ropes. Last year's celebrations ended in unimaginable tragedy, with 11 fans losing their lives. And this year, RCB's players and the management repeatedly remembered those supporters. Captain Rajat Patidar said he always wanted to dedicate this trophy to the fans who were lost. The franchise also urged supporters to celebrate responsibly, signaling lessons learned from a painful chapter last year. Before we go across to our panelists, let's listen into some reactions coming in.
Quite a thrill for me to be standing next to the great Kapil Dev, which I know all of you understand. And we're at a point where the relationship between Australia and India, I think, is at a high point. We've never been closer, we've never been doing more together, but of course it is a really long relationship. And in so many ways, the shared passion that we have about life is embodied in our passion for cricket. And there are, Virat Kohli is a huge name in Australia right now, but as I grew up, and the very first Indian cricket captain that I remember was Bishan Bedi, and there were the great names of that era. But Kapil Dev is somebody who, amongst everyone in this room, is easily the most well-known person in Australia today.
And to help us decode this victory, we have Mahavir Rawat, senior sports journalist, Shekhar Vijayan, sports commentator, Pawan Kumar, cricket enthusiast, joining us live on this broadcast. A very good evening to all of you all. Shekhar, let me come to you first. How is the mood in Bengaluru, and how was it last evening?
The josh is high, and when you were giving your introduction, I was thinking about why does every person in India resonate with RCB? RCB's story is almost like a pot boiler. Heartbreaks, there's the source of all the memes. 18 years, 17 years, they haven't won a trophy, and the fans still love them. There's a reason for it, because I think they play with their heart, and they've got a team now which wants to win. And the entire perspective this time around was not about defending the title, it was the hunger to win. And when you think about defending it, when you think of winning instead of defending, your entire perspective changes. How you think as a team, how you think as a coach, how you think as a captain. And I think through this entire tournament, the IPL 2026, RCB was a team which was constantly winning. It had a certain pattern to it, and we all knew from day one that RCB would win the trophy. The fact that they did it just goes to show that this is a pantheon of greats, and the best is yet to come. And with Virat Kohli being at the epicenter, it was absolutely normal, and that's the way it's always going to be. Glory and greatness, I think, goes together with RCB, and this is just a start. I feel, there's so much more to come. This is a team which has also invested in its bowling this time around, as compared to earlier. We used to focus only on the batting. The batting was so flamboyant. We had the likes of Chris Gale, ABD, Virat Kohli, and various others. But now the bowling is what is really winning the games. And the bowlers, we're talking about the bowlers who know how to change the length, beat a hard length, beat slower balls, beat yorkers. There is versatility in the bowling. So I feel it's an all-round team effort. We were also watching the post-match celebrations. The team is very comfortable with themselves. They're very comfortable with each other, with the families. There's a certain amount of cheer, camaraderie, where they revel in each other's success, right?
And
Virat
that's
Kohli is
the
an elder
most
statesman.
important factor, Shekhar, because
Yeah.
it's not just an individual's game, it's a team game. Mahavir Rawatji, how do you look at RCB's evolution over the years? Because it's been a long wait for RCB fans to arrive at this moment, not one, but 2 trophies to their name. How do you look at RCB's growth?
No, I would second what Shekhar just told, that there are so many dialogues in that Shah Rukh Khan film where he said that अगर आप किसी शिद्दत से किसी चीज को चाहते हो तो पूरी कायनात उसे मिलाने की आपको कोशिश करती है, and सिर्फ एक बार नहीं, but this has happened twice, and the second time is much more prettier. Look, they always say that it's very difficult to reach at the top, and it's more and more difficult to remain over there, especially in a very competitive atmosphere of IPL that is happening. And there's again one thing, that this team is probably the most constant team that that was there in IPL. And what I always feel, that big names like Virat Kohli and Josh Hazelwood and Bhuvi, they will always come and perform because that's what they are paid big money for. What really makes what really made Chennai Super Kings the team that they were, or Mumbai Indians what they became, and then now RCB, is that the support that they are getting from unknown Indian commodities. Look, at the end of the day, it's still Indian Premier League. So Rafiq Salam is one of the names that comes directly to the mind. And then Kunal Pandya, how he has evolved over the period of time. I mean, how odd it looks for him that he is the one bowler here who has bowled the maximum number of bouncers in the IPL. But all in all, what I feel is that they played consistently. This time they were very methodical, and just like Virat Kohli is a master chase, people compare Tendulkar and everyone else, but I have seen his era also, and I am seeing Virat Kohli's era. I have never seen any white ball biggest chase master in this whole game from the time the white ball has started being playing. So now he is also looking very comfortable, and now. You remember that there was a time where there were more fans of Virat Kohli, less fans of RCB. Hats off to Rajat Patidar for making an environment over there. Now he is also starting to make a legacy of his own. People have already started placing him in the top 5 captains overall over the 18 years that IPL has ever seen. And I'm very surprised why he's not in the Indian team with the kind of form and the maturity that he has.
That's right. And, coming off an injury and then delaying his marriage, all those sacrifices have really paid off. Pawan, as a fan, how do you look at RCB's victory? Because this is unbelievable, but everything was according to plan with what Virat Kohli said, that from day one, they took one match at a time, and, history has spoken about the rest.
Deepak, as you rightly said, it's unbelievable, especially after waiting for 17 years to have 2 back-to-back trophies. It's nothing short of unbelievable. But at the same time, I would like to point out to what you just said in the opening. It was composure of the team that we saw this time. In my observation, all these years, if something did not work, the team would make changes very frequently. And, this time around, we saw even though some of the players could not be consistent in their performances, there were a couple of them in the middle order, right? They were still not dropped and they were backed. So that, I think, plays a huge role. And people like Bhuvi also acknowledging the coaching staff for their support to give him the freedom to do what he wants. Probably that's one of the major reasons why we saw him pick 27 wickets this time around. And Mahavirji rightly pointed out the Indian players chipping in at the right time, whether it was DDP, whether it was Rasik Dhar, and of course Venkatesh Iyer, who had huge boots to fill in when Phil Salt left. So all in all, it felt like a team which had multiple leaders at different stages of the tournament and different places in the 11. As a fan, I can't be more. I can't expect more except for another star on the logo here.
That's right, and it's a very, very, emotional moment as well because it's unprecedented, two back-to-back titles. And Shekhar Vijayan, the team composition, every single person knew their responsibilities, knew their duties, and they delivered on all fronts, from bowling to fielding to batting. Everything has, worked out really well.
Absolutely. I felt there was a lot of clarity in terms of they understood the pitches well. For example, we saw that they were not just dependent on home conditions or overseas conditions, or conditions outside the home. That is, if the pitch was not working for them, it was either a hard length or they had slower ball. So you had bowlers for every occasion, and I feel earlier it was always about the batsmen, but this time around they invested heavily in the bowling because we all talk about the fact that the bowlers are the ones who actually win you the game. The batsmen set up the match, but the bowlers win you the game. And RCB's fielding or everything around RCB looked like they were going to win. This was a team to defeat actually. This was a team which every team was looking at as how can we defeat RCB. But I think RCB's perspective, the way they looked at things, the way they looked at the games, they were always looking at always winning. They were always looking at trying to go out there and win rather than defending the title. And when you do that, I think the mindset is very different, and that's exactly what they showed. Yesterday's game, they made it quite boring with the way they actually played it. If you look at it, it was totally a one-man show. It was totally a team effort, and you expected Gujarat Titans to really come to the party, which they didn't. So I believe RCB has come to a level where they are playing at not just a good level but at a great level, and now they need to just maintain the same momentum. Virat Kohli is obviously amongst the pantheon of greats, but amongst that, I think Rajat Patidar is such a cool captain if you look at it. He's managed the team so effortlessly. There's so much to learn in terms of change management, in terms of transition, in terms of handling all these so-called superstar players. He's handled them well. All the players knew the roles well, be it Venkatesh, be it, Bhuvi. Everybody knew what they were supposed to do, and there was no overlapping of it, which was, when we have seen RCB playing earlier, everybody loved watching RCB because it's a very flamboyant team. There's a lot of fun watching an RCB team. Even earlier, the likes of Chris Gayle,
RCB, all the team members, they're all like a bundle of energy. Everybody brings in a lot of energy to the field. And Mahavir Rawat, what set RCB apart, in the last 2 years, this season and the previous season, compared to all the other seasons where, fans were only dreaming, but now their dreams have been realized. What is it that, has added that extra edge to RCB over the last couple of seasons?
Look, obviously they have learned a lot from their mistakes, and we have discussed so many things that really went into RCB's favor. I just want to compare RCB with CSK. Look, there was a time when CSK was winning trophy after trophy after trophy. RCB, everyone was making memes out of RCB and crying and not able to make it, and Virat Kohli and everything was happening. But then what I really appreciate of the team staff and support staff and team management is how open-handed they allowed Rajat Patidar to behave, and somehow that team came out of the clout of Virat Kohli, which Chennai Super Kings still has not come out of MS Dhoni era. They are searching for captains, they are searching for openers, they are banking on someone, Ruturaj Gaikwad, whom we think that their management is only not too much hopeful whether he will be able to deliver. But they chose Rajat Patidar, they gave him that environment, and hats off to Virat Kohli who didn't interfere in any of the decision making, in any of the practice sessions. I mean, we talk to people over there, we talk to journalists over there. He just comes. He does not even give his feedback unless he's asked by Rajat Patidar. And somehow I feel that Dhoni traveling with CSK has still, all the cameras on Mahendra Singh Dhoni, all the hype on Mahendra Singh Dhoni. He's coming for 2 balls, 3 balls, 5 balls. Okay, whatever his possibility may be, because we know that he is not going to play IPL any longer because of his fitness. So what was there's a very nice dialogue of a film, Dark Knight, where Heath Ledger, the Joker, says that either you die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become a villain. And I think Virat Kohli did not allow him to become a villain like any other icon players of these franchises. He has just gone on, and he has done this by not getting too much involved in the game and by allowing playing his role to the perfect, to what the perfectionist he is, but also allowing the franchisee, because now it's Rajat Patidar has become a big name, and this is what you want as a franchisee, because Virat Kohli may be retiring in 3, 4, 5 years, but they want RCB as a franchisee to go on, and for that they need many other strong pillars, which includes the captain.
And every single person, Mr. Rawat, brings in their own, sort of a edge to the table. It's not just about Rajat Patidar, Virat Kohli, and Bhuvneshwar Kumar, the master in action. We've seen him over this season evolve and almost very, very close to picking up the purple cap as well. But Pawan, when you looked at Rajat Patidar and Virat Kohli, did it remind you of Dhoni and Virat Kohli? Because the composure, the calmness that Rajat Patidar has resembles a little bit of Captain Cool himself.
I agree, Deepak. I think it's not just with the hairstyle, but also with the composure. Rajat Patidar has managed to achieve something that only probably Mahendra Singh Dhoni had achieved before. And like Mahavirji mentioned earlier, Virat Kohli giving Rajat Patidar the space to take on the team. I think that is not an easy task to do when the entire load of the team was on him for so many years, and now he has to make way for somebody, and to make way in such a way that he's come up to win two trophies for the team. So that combination, probably having worked with MS Dhoni for so long, Virat had learned quite a bit about it, in my understanding. But that and himself in terms of his game, he got his fastest 50 yesterday in all of 18 seasons. So he's focused on evolving his game while leaving the captaincy to Rajat Patidar. So that takes a lot, and I think we need to learn a lot from that as sports people.
Shekhar, they say that IPL is a young man's game, but Virat Kohli has shown that age is just a number at 37 as well, scoring his personal fastest 50 and also going on to score about very, very close to 10,000 runs in IPL alone. How do you look at Kohli's evolution, especially his attitude? He was a very, very young and an angry chap, but now he looks like a very calm, composed, and everything he's planned out, his complete innings is, planned out in advance, and he knows which ball to strike and where to, just let it go, knock it off for a single or a double. But tell me about Kohli's evolution, Shekhar.
Oh my God, Kohli is amazing, and it's not saying because we're all big fans of Kohli, but the fact is he's adapted so quickly to this game. This game, Deepak, we've always been talking about the fact that strike rate is so important. We saw in the last World Cup which happened, right? The World Cup which happened a few months back, where the strike rate was over at 170, 180. Kohli brought his strike rate up to that. So he was so quick to understand that he just can't play a sheet anchor's role. He has to get his strike rate also up. And if you notice the strike rate in this entire tournament, it was almost at 160, 170 as an opener. And he was making sure he was not just there to take the singles, but also to, strike the fours and sixes. The second thing about Kohli is his fitness. His fitness has been his foundation based on which everything is happening right now. If you look amongst his peers, right? If you look at a Rohit Sharma or any other peers of his, they don't look like they can survive 20 overs, whereas Kohli can. You see that happening. But like he almost went out on a limb in the last game. But that's Kohli for you. Kohli will, when he comes on the field, there's so much of enthusiasm, there's so much of energy. He takes it upon himself. He's almost like a man who's on a burning ship. You feel like he wants to just go out there and, create a legacy of his own. That fitness is something which is very inspirational. The second thing is he's been very adaptable. We all talk about adaptability. I think there's a word for this. He's pivoted so fast in this entire tournament. He's understood what his strengths are. He understood what his areas of opportunities are, and he's worked towards it. His fitness has always been good. His fielding has always been good, and he brings so much to the table in RCB. He's obviously a marquee player, but more than anything else, Kohli is an inspiration not just for the team, but I think for generations to come in terms of how he's managed and navigated and maneuvered his career. He has understood what he's really good at. He's understood what the team really wants from him. And there's a lot of clarity. There's a lot of hunger. There's a lot of aspiration in the way he goes about his role. He knows very well what he needs to do. They call him the chase master. Obviously, he's a chase master for a particular reason. But he has understood that role so well, and he knows what he needs to deliver to the team. And not just that, I think he also shares a lot of knowledge with the youngsters. I was watching the post-match conference of Rajat Patidar, and where he spoke about how Kohli shares a lot of knowledge with the youngsters. So for somebody who's in the team, who's been there for 18 years, and 18 years and running, you have youngsters coming to the team. They will learn so much from a Kohli because Kohli's been exposed to any environment, World Cup, T20 World Cup, IPL, rubbing
Domestic
shoulders with
conditions, international
elite
conditions,
people.
world's
Yeah,
greatest bowlers, everybody, he's been there, he's done
for
that.
the knowledge.
Exactly. And, Mahavir Rawatji, if you look at Gujarat Titans, the ghosts of the playoffs haunted them again. Their middle order was once again exposed. What can be the key takeaways for Gujarat Titans from this epic finale?
Before we come to Gujarat Titans, this whole when Shekhar was telling about what Kohli was, I was reminded of my, I had also just started my career, and Virat Kohli had won the Under 19 World Cup, and he was sitting and he came to our studio, and I was anchoring that show, and Ajay Jadeja was my guest, and he told, and Delhi had a choice either to pick Virat Kohli or Pradeep Sangwan. They went ahead and picked up Pradeep Sangwan as their key player, and I asked Ajay Jadeja, and because he and me both speak Gujarati, and I told, yeah, what has he done? What have Delhi done to themselves that they have picked Pradeep Sangwan instead of Virat Kohli? And he said, this boy is a big star. They don't realize it, but one day he will win many trophies, and Delhi won't have even one trophy. And today I am reminded of that conversation again. So one thing that I want to tell is RCB. When there is a huge big tournaments, there are many phases that a team goes through. They win a couple of matches, then they lose a couple of matches, and then how they come back. So I think that GT just couldn't handle the failure at top of the order was very fragile, and they were very good with the bowlers, so their bowling is still the top notch. They have all the good pace bowlers, they have good impact, but just imagine Tewatia coming at number 4 or 5, and I mean, this is not the kind of batting that you expect from a league where batting is dominating so much. So what I personally feel that they have a lot of positive. I mean, the biggest positive is Gill. He is still in a form. Sai Sudarshan is top of the order. The bowling is good. I think they have to do somewhere the number 4, number 5, number 6, get in more impact boundary hitting players.
And this is something that RCB had also suffered in the past, a very, very weak middle order. But Pawan, over the years, RCB has consolidated a very, very good batting lineup, from number 1 to number 11. Everybody can swing the bat. We've seen Bhuvaneshwar Kumar as well, smack it over the boundary for a 6, helping RCB get to the top of the table. But tell us about how, RCB has been able to manage and also bridge that middle order gap over the years.
Deepak, you hit it right on the nail. The biggest issue for RCB, in my opinion, was that middle order. You were always reliant on the top 3 with Virat Kohli, A.B. de Villiers, and Chris Gayle, right? And then until Rajat Patidar came into the mix in 2021, it was still patchy. Who fits in at what place? Right now, I think they with the current management, I think they hit it on the nail with having Tim David, with having a Krunal Pandya, who came in when wickets fell early and stabilized the ship, like he did in one of the playoff games as well, and also against Mumbai. And they're batting pretty deep. They had more all-rounders. They have Romario Shepherd. They have, like I said, Krunal Pandya, Tim David, who can be destructive on his day. I think that's what we were missing every time. Because earlier, after 3 wickets fell, you almost lost the hope. That you knew for a reason until and unless ABD was still batting along with the number 9, you still knew you had a chance. But today, even Bhuvaneshwar can come and give you that 6. That's the kind of atmosphere that they've built in. So that for me is a huge takeaway and says a lot about how the team ambience is. Even Rasik Dar to take those 2 runs against Mumbai in the end. It takes a lot of character to chip in at the right time to take those 2 runs. So what I mean to say is the middle order seems sorted right now, and I can't be complaining about anything as a ardent RCB fan who's been crying about the middle order failing each time when we need it.
And that pain has been relieved now thanks to Rajat Patidar, Tim David, Romario Shepherd, and the list goes on and on and on. But Pawan, you and me have played with Devdutt Padikkal, when he was in his under 16, under 12s. And look at him now. He's a very matured man. He knows his innings, very composed. Unfortunately, he couldn't fire off in the finale. But throughout the season, he's done exceptionally well, Pawan.
Devdutt, you used to watch him play the nets, and you knew this guy can do something special. I always thought he resembles Yuvraj Singh in his style, right? He makes you go wow when you look at him play a shot. And this time around, I felt he played more freely. If you look at him, his strike rates during the first 2 years used to be around 120s, 130s. But now, right from the get-go, you've noticed more often than not, he started off with a boundary this season. And that subtle change has taken off a huge load on people like Kohli, or, for example, even Rajat Patidar in a couple of games when, he came in and gave those starts, or probably when Phil Salt failed in a couple of games. He came in and acted so maturely almost as if he's the senior player in the team. And to having seen him, play at that stage and right now evolve into this, I'm looking forward to his next few years with RCB and all the destruction he can create. I think I'm really looking forward to it, especially because he gives you some delightful shots for the eye.
That's right, he's a visual treat completely, but we've unfortunately run out of time. But Shekhar Vijayan, I have 20 seconds for you. Just tell me, about RCB's tribute to those 11 lives lost last time around in the Stampede, which was tragic, that marked the celebrations. And this time around, RCB has appealed to the fans to celebrate responsibly. And RCB fans understand that, in this testing time, it is better to stand with those whose lives were lost than, heading out on the streets and probably repeating a same episode.
Absolutely. See, Deepak, RCB is nothing without its fans. RCB has got fans all across the globe, not just in India, but across the world, because of the way they play, the way they are as a team. And every fan can, resonate with them. Now, about the 11 lives which we lost last year, I think that is very tragic. And the fact that even Rajat spoke about this, even in the post-match conference, every player was talking about the fans, shows that how they feel about it. And the only way sports people can do this is by doing it through the games. And that's exactly what they did. They won it for their fans, and they were extremely, gracious about it. They expressed it in the best way they could by playing, and like they say, action speaks louder than words. And they did that. And ultimately, that's what is really important. And I think that's how it really should be, right?
That's right, Shekhar. Many thanks, Shekhar, Mahavir Rawat, and Pawan for joining me live on this broadcast. What a weekend it has been for RCB fans. Some of them even say that Diwali has come for the second time, in 1 year. But the key takeaway is that RCB has dedicated this triumph to those 11 lives lost, those fans that RCB lost. And the message is celebrate responsibly.